this is gonna be a bad idea, isn't it? Oh my god. Okay, this is gonna be a really dangerous video to make. Maybe I won't even post it, but I need to talk about how I feel about the Rhaenyra and Mysaria scene. Let's just get started. It's chocolate. Drink responsibly. This is not going to solve any of my problems. I just wanted a glass of wine after work. Okay. Spoiler alert 4. Potentially. House of the Dragon, Fire and Blood, Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire, World of Ice and Fire, and kind of anything else that goes along those lines. I don't care that 2 girls were kissing. I don't care at all. Totally fine. Not the reason why I have a problem with the scene. And from what I've seen online, which has been a lot, that's actually not the main reason why people are upset about this scene. The actor who plays Rhaenyra, Emma Darcy, is non-binary, which means that they go by they, them pronouns because they feel somewhere in between male or female, or sometimes they present more female, other times they present more masculine. And clearly they can express both because they do an amazing job of playing a woman character in the show. Non-binary is not the same as their sexuality. They could be bi, they could be polyamorous, asexual. I mean, I don't know, but I know that they go by they, them pronouns, and they are identifying as non-binary. For those of you who think that's a problem, this channel is not for you. I want you here because I want you to understand why the LGBTQ themes are not bad. If you are a male, if you identify completely as male, and that's the sex that, swatches, that's the sex you were assigned at birth, and you identify male. Imagine if I called you she by accident. You would feel compelled to say, no, I'm a boy, or I'm a man, or I'm a he. People who are transgender or non, I can't speak from personal experience, okay? I'm an ally 100,000%. But people who, identify as a different gender, they don't feel like that disparity. When I call them a she, even though they might be she at birth, they want to say, no, I'm a he. Like, it's a thing, okay? I can't explain it, and I don't want to, like, assume anybody's experience as my own. But I don't care that they were making out. I don't care. Sexuality in the Game of Thrones universe, okay, specifically we're talking about Fire and Blood, which is the basis for House of the Dragon. If you've seen any of my other videos, it's a prequel for the Game of Thrones series of books and show. And Game of Thrones, this whole universe is known for trying to shock the audience. Shocking sexy scenes, shocking stabby scenes, shocking deaths, shocking betrayals, blood, guts, violence, all kinds of sex with all kinds of genders. I don't find 2 women kissing particularly shocking, but some people might, and that might be why they included it, even though I have read one source that says that the actor, Emma Darcy, who plays Rhaenyra, thought that it was appropriate for the scene, and I guess they decided that it, like, the crew decided, or the producer or whoever, decided that they should keep that in. I can't confirm that, but people are talking about it. That doesn't mean it's true. Alright, I just tried to take the lipstick swatches off my hand, and it made my hand all red. I don't know if you can tell in the camera, but if you can, I'm fine. It was lipstick swatches. Okay, so now that I'm hoping it's established that it's not the content of the scene that was the problem, I'll tell you. We have a lot of things to do in this show. A lot of things are going to happen. I may have to talk about some of them, but I'll try not to, okay? I'll try not to. There are a lot of other battles, some of which include a whole lot of dragons. There are a lot more significant deaths. There's a whole swapperoonie in King's Landing that we haven't done yet, and that took place for months at least, if not longer. So, like, and a lot happened during that future thing. The big thing in the Dragon Pit that's kind of probably going to be a grand finale, like, they had one important dragon battle and death so far in this season, and there's only 2 more seasons left, and there's only 2 episodes left. Last week, this is season 2, episode 6. Just came out. Everybody is ranting and raving about it, so I decided to record it. I don't know if this is a good idea. So, this is very abbreviated, but there's a whole lot of stuff to do still. Like, season 2 started... So here's like the dragon battle between Vhagar and Arax that ended season 1. We're about that many pages later. It actually doesn't look that bad compared to the season 1 page. Season 1 was like less than 100 pages. I'm gonna put a chocolate butter. Not that there's no chocolate left in it. Season 1 was approximately this long. It went from page 352 to approximately 422 in the hardback. Not even 100 pages for the whole season. They've done, let's say, from 422 to 476-ish. But the House of the Dragon thing has a really long way to go if they're only doing 100 pages a season. We've got 2 episodes left, and we've only gotten through like 50 pages. I mean, I'm looking at page 585, and they're still talking about these characters. We got stuff to do. So, last week set up the sowing of the seeds, the dragon seeds trying to claim the dragons. Okay, and yes, we had one fail, which was expected, and we had Seasmoke choosing a rider, which in theory is cool. I like that, and it kind of explains why Seasmoke would take another rider, even though the person he's bonded with is supposed to be still alive, and that's Rhaenyra Velaryon, who escaped, but we all think he's dead, or not us, but all of the characters not in the know think he's dead, but we're like, what about Seasmoke? So maybe it's a book nerd thing, maybe it's a book reader thing, or like, because we're expecting certain things to happen and then they don't. The Game of Thrones universe is not about having hallucinations. Well, it's a little bit about hallucinations, because Daenerys had a lot of hallucinations in certain scenes, and yeah, there were a lot of wargs and wolf dreams and stuff. But it's not about giving people hugs because they feel bad for them. I love that. But they spent a long time on this development of some kind of relationship between Rhaenyra and Mysaria. If the hug was just kind of, and I knew it, as soon as the hug just lingered a little bit, I was like, please don't do the thing. And then they did the thing, and I'm like, why are we not spending time on more dragon seeds? Like, I thought the entire episode was going to be about claiming dragons, and I was so excited because there's only 2 episodes after that, and I was like, if all the dragons get claimed and like that's what they focus on during this, then the next battle can happen, and maybe that's how they'll end it. And like, so it seems like people who just watch the show are like, what's the big deal here? But people who read the books too, including me, are like, why are you doing that scene and just waiting for all this other stuff? And because the end of Game of Thrones was so rushed, we don't want House of the Dragon to be rushed too. And there's a lot of departures from what's happening in the books. The book is forgiving about that because it's vague and it often gives multiple scenarios. But a lot of these scenes aren't any of the listed scenarios. Some of them are reading between the lines, and some of them are little, like adding the dog. That's just brilliant, and everybody's like excited about it. But these are scenes that didn't have to happen in season 6. Okay, the King's Landing riot. We already know people are upset. Okay, they're focusing on specific, they're called small folk in the book, you know, non-royal people, the regular people in King's Landing. They're focusing on specific ones of them for a reason. It seems random, but it's not actually. So, fine. But we already know they're upset. They already were, like, giving the royal family a really hard time. We didn't need another riot. There was no reason for them to go to the Sept, for Alicent and Helena to go to the Sept, other than to have them be attacked on the way back. Also, they would have died. Like, there were way too many people and too far of a walk for them to be unharmed. That just wasn't realistic. And they spent a long time on it, and apparently a lot of budget on it, if you watch the behind-the-scenes stuff. That riot was unnecessary. I forget if it specifically happens in the book, but they basically kind of did it already. So they could have spent time with dragons instead of that. Larys, the clubfoot, goes in and talks to Aegon about, you know, his disabilities and using your mind to make up for that. We know. And it's not important, really. His backstory is interesting if he wants to give that, but with only 2 episodes left, and given what I know about Aegon in the books, he kind of, like, he doesn't do what Larys is suggesting. And it says in the book there's only a couple people that really went to see him, and it was like his, I put it in the last video, I think. It was like his mom and the Maester, obviously, and I think there was one other. Yeah, so that was unnecessary, and it took a long time, and I understand its character development, but there's only 2 episodes left. Daemon's hallucinations. People have been saying this whole 2nd season of House of the Dragon that things are going very slowly. I didn't agree until episode 6. Daemon is one of the most important and, like, most interesting, in my opinion, characters in the show and in this period of time for the Targaryens. He does a lot of things. He's been having hallucinations for like 3 episodes straight. I love the cameos. Okay, I love that they showed Millie and they showed Paddy Considine. I love that. But they didn't need him to have a crying scene. They saw him in the throne room. They could have put those together in 1 episode, maybe? Why is he just sitting there doing nothing? And Caraxes is kind of over there like, what, are we doing something? I thought maybe he was finally gonna leave. And then he didn't. And we're over it. We're over it. And I didn't feel that way until this episode, because I saw everybody after episode 5 being like, we're sick of it. And I'm like, well, but it did happen, and they're kind of biding time for other characters to catch up. But no, at this point, no, there's no point to it. And I don't know how they're going to end this season, but I'm really worried it's just going to be completely underwhelming. And then we're going to be in the same boat, just waiting for another season again to maybe hopefully be better. So the hallucinations, I think they're trying to show that he's going through a giant hallucination therapy session. You know, coming to terms with what he's done in his past, what he's done wrong, what he's missed. Oh, also in that, like, Viserys crying over his wife scene, I think they actually got the actress that played Emma, but then she just laid there, dead. And I kind of felt bad for her. I was like, I hope they paid you for that, because you did technically make a comeback, but since you died in episode 1 of the first season, nobody really cared that much about her cameo. She just played a dead person. I don't know. It was too much. It was too much, and it's distracting at this point. it's taking us out of the story, so we're not as invested with it and we're getting frustrated with it. Daemon having a crying scene after the hallucination about Viserys being upset, crying, wasn't well done in my opinion. I understand that maybe it's finally kind of broken him and now he's gonna like be apologetic and maybe go back to Rhaenyra and be like, I was wrong, I'm gonna be completely on your side, let's make up kind of thing, and then maybe there'll be like this weird Mysaria, Daemon, Rhaenyra thing, but they don't have time for it. I love the character development. If this was a 20 episode season, I'm all for the Mysaria Rhaenyra stuff. Like, let's explore that a little bit. Because sexuality in the books is very fluid. I think I meant to say this earlier, but in the books, Cersei has a romantic scene with a woman, Daenerys has romantic scenes with a woman, and they do say that Rhaenyra was more than fond of Laena. That was Daemon's second wife, right before Rhaenyra. In the book, they're at Driftmark and Dragonstone, and they just kind of fly back and forth and visit with each other and stuff. And it says she's more than fond of Laena. It implies that there could be, you know, a bisexual person or whatever. Like, but who cares? Like, okay. The scene of Rhaenyra and Mysaria having a romantic moment did not happen in the book. But could it happen? Sure. Could they add it? Sure. And I was saying, I think, if this was 20 episodes, throw that in there. Let's explore that. Like, it's not impossible. Like, they're not changing, you know, other things that they're changing. That's not the problem. The problem is that it's completely unnecessary. Unless they're going to have more than 4 seasons, which maybe that's a possibility. I haven't heard anything about that yet. But my biggest issue with that and other scenes in that episode, it was just unnecessary, wasn't really going to lead anywhere. Maybe we're wrong, and maybe they're going to, like, because there is a renewed relationship between Daemon and Mysaria, and Rhaenyra doesn't care, so maybe they're setting that up. But for them to end a Dragonseed episode, I think they ended with that, right? The credits rolled after this scene. For them to end with a romantic scene that didn't happen in the books, had nothing to do with the Dragonseed, had nothing to do with, like, the war. Why would they put that in there and not all this other stuff? They have one dragon rider now. One more dragon rider on Seasmoke. We haven't even confirmed, like, Rhaenyra hasn't even met Addam. It's Addam of Hull, who is a bastard of Corlys Velaryon. Corlys, and I believe the Velaryons in general, have Targaryen blood, which, confusingly, is collectively known as Valyrian blood. Velaryons are of Valyrian blood, I believe. There's a lot of talk about Targaryens versus Velaryons versus Valyrian blood versus... There were other houses of people, families of people that rode dragons at one point until they came to Westeros because there was a huge disaster and most of them died. The dragons died, most of the people died. And I understand suspense. I understand that they're trying to build up stuff, but why not have that whole episode about claiming dragons? That's what I was expecting. I was all excited for. And then I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, Sir Darkling gets burnt to a crisp. That's good. Okay, nobody else is, because there's a scene somewhere that they have in previews that people are lined up, we're assuming, to see if they can be dragon riders. Maybe that's not what it was, but that's what we want to see. In the book, it says 16 people died trying to claim dragons. I don't expect to see all of them, but they showed one. I'm gonna look it up to see how Addam claims Seasmoke. This is supposed to be about Rhaenyra and Mysaria, but it didn't happen in the book, so there's nothing for me to look up. It just says that Seasmoke, who had once borne Laenor Velaryon, took onto his back a boy of 10 and 5, known as Addam of Hull, whose origins remain a matter of dispute among historians, the people who contributed to this fake book. It's a real book, but it's a book within a book. In the book, Addam and Alan, who we've both met, I don't know if they've called them Addam of Hull and Alan of Hull, but they were bastards of Corlys. They were rumored to be Rhaenyra's bastards, but Rhaenyra preferred men. He married for appearances, and it was doubtful that that was the case, you know, that he was seeking other women, but I don't know. And Corlys didn't want them to be known as his bastards after Rhaenys dies, and Rhaenys and him have a secret, not a secret, but like a down low conversation about Alan in the show. And then after Rhaenys dies in the book, Corlys, I think, admits it or something like that. But all it says is that this is who ended up riding Seasmoke. It does say that Sir Darkland was burned. Even though they changed it, the end result is the same. That doesn't matter. The biggest controversy right now is this scene between Rhaenyra and Mysaria. It was very slow, and it took us out of the story. We're not looking for that kind of event right now. It just seems like a distraction or making it slower going than it has to. That scene where Rhaenyra slaps the council member because he's being a jerk, it would have made just as much sense if she started making out with him as if she started making out with Mysaria. And I'm referring to Rhaenyra as she. I'm trying to get Emma's pronouns correct as that, they, them. But Rhaenyra is a she character, okay? It would have made just as much sense if she just started making out with one of her council members as with Mysaria. Like, it didn't matter that it was two women. It mattered that it made no sense. There was no point to the story. At least that's obvious at this point. It was a long scene, and where's all the good stuff? I'm sorry. I mean, representation matters, and I'm glad that they have, you know, scenes between same-sex couples, but, you know, Rhaenyra Velaryon had a scene with another dude, but that was in the books, and that was establishing his character. Rhaenyra is in the middle of a war with a lot of balls in the air and people all different places and lots of problems, and they have a very they had this makeout sesh. I don't get it. There just doesn't seem to be enough time to give this story justice, and I think that's what the problem is that we're like waiting for the next thing to happen, and we're ready, and the suspense has worked. And up until this point, I feel like, you know, 1 through 5 was pretty well crafted. The Daemon stuff could have been a little less time spent on that stuff. But I think he's, like I mentioned, he's going through a thing. Okay, he's going to maybe have a little character growth, even though he doesn't in the books, really. But this is not a 20-episode season. You have 2 episodes left. Do the things. Do the things. Do the things that are in the book. Develop them if you want, but do the things. I'm pointing to the book right now. I know they read it. They've done a great job of reading between the lines. But Daemon does a lot more stuff than just sitting at Harrenhal having a think. And Rhaenyra does a whole bunch more stuff than giving people hugs. Now, what Mysaria told her was heartbreaking. I don't know if it's true. It wasn't in the book. But she's like Varys in Game of Thrones. She's Queen of Whisperers. You know, she has things going on. And I understand they're trying to make female characters, you know, struggle to stay in power in order to teach us that it's not right to have the inequality. I get that. I've been looking forward to this every Sunday. We've had some really big things go down where waiting for this House of the Dragon episode just cheered us up and was like, okay, we're gonna get to that, and we're gonna disappear for an hour, and it's gonna be great, and we're gonna want to go read the books. But then at the very end of episode 6 that we were like really excited about, me and I think a lot of other people, they ended it with an unnecessary long scene that kind of broke the fourth wall, and we were all like rolling our eyes, and then it ended like that. And we're just like, really? Really? It's not that we disapprove of what happened. It's that we're disappointed in the pacing and the amount of like important book stuff that is not happening. So I don't know if this made any sense. This was like mostly me kind of ranting about it, but hopefully I made a few good points. I just don't know if I put them in any kind of order that was linear. But I think I was hoping, and maybe other people have been hoping too, that this show would kind of make up for the way Game of Thrones ended by being amazing and fixing some of those problems. Season 2, you don't have to try so hard to get people's attention. You've already got it because season 1 was such a big hit and we've been waiting for season 2. But don't freaking ruin season 2. Especially if they're only planning on having 4 seasons. I know I sound like a broken record. I keep saying this over and over, but 2 episodes left and a whole lot of crap to do. If you want us to watch season 3, you're gonna have to leave season 2, you know, in a good way so that we're not freaking bored. And I appreciate the character development. I love it, but we don't have time for that right now. We gotta get going here, guys. And I hope that they do it justice. And if it's disappointing, like all of us fans of Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon and the books and all of that, we're just gonna be so upset again. And we need something good right now. I'm in the US. We desperately need something good right now, okay? Right now, am I gonna stop watching the show? Absolutely not. I'm gonna keep watching the show, but please don't disappoint us. We're already heartbroken as a community of people who wanted a Game of Thrones ending worthy of Game of Thrones, worthy of George R.R. Martin. So I don't know how involved George R.R. Martin is with this show. It does say that he helped to create it, and I know that they did, you know, involve him on some level, but did they ask him if there should be a kissing scene between Rhaenyra and Mysaria? Probably not. Would he have been for it? Probably. But again, why? Right now. We love the vying for power and the battle between the genders and the subtlety and all of that stuff, but we get it. We're with you. Go forward, please. Don't just stall out. Instead of hiring an owl to fly in to Alice Rivers, you know, which I loved, by the way, and I'm going to do a Falconer reacts to that scene. I was kind of excited about it, but instead of paying for that and paying for Caraxes sitting on a rock being like, what's going on, bro? Maybe, you know, put another dragon seed, like, in the episode or something. Something! They're getting us to talk about it. That really could be a thing. They could be, like, deliberately putting controversial things in. I don't know. Please do the story justice. We don't want to be like, oh, well, we'll do it justice in season 3. No, do it now, please. Please. Because if we like it, everybody's going to be watching it over and over and over. Start to finish, season 1 into season 2. You know, maybe House of the Dragon into Game of Thrones rewatching or opposite. Like, please do this right. Please do this right and stop putting unnecessary scenes in there that tell us things we already know. Or we've already seen, or that aren't even relevant. All right, I'm gonna try to calm down now. Thank you for watching. I'm not gonna do the whole subscribe thing. You can subscribe if you want. You know how this works. Like the video, whatever. We'll talk to you soon. This is not usually what we do on this channel, but it apparently is now because I'm doing it. So yeah, sometimes we talk about books and shows. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye. Unnecessary, unnecessary, unnecessary. I don't care. I just hit my earrings. Ironically, I hit the dragon wing earrings. Now I have to chew it. A relationship between... We want to see a true representation. bothering me, and I think a lot of people. I don't know why I was doing that. So, I have mixed feelings about season 7. Season 7. Oh my god. Maybe there'll be 7 seasons, and then this won't even be necessary to be upset about, because we'll just keep going.